All right, welcome everybody. This panel discussion will be strategies for downtown progress. We're just going to have our panel introduce ourselves, and then we just jump into the meat of it. Please.
Hi everyone. My name is Linda Henninger, and I am president of Kings Park Civic Association.
Hi, I'm Mark Mancini. I'm an architect from Smithtown. I'm Chamber of Commerce and also Smithtown United Civic Association.
My name is Jim McGoldrick. I'm from Huntington, lifelong resident of Huntington Station.
Karen Montalbano, president of the Baldwin Civic Association.
Lionel Chitty, your fill-in moderator for today. I am proud to say I'm the immediate past president of the Hicksville Chamber of Commerce after 9 years. I'll be the executive director moving forward, focusing on our downtown revitalization process. And I'm also the owner of Lionel J. Chitty & Associates, business consultant.
I'm Sean Collins. I'm Public Affairs Coordinator for the LGBT Network and recently Vice Chair of the Bayshore Library Summer Council.
Linda Palmer with the Hagedorn Foundation, soon to be closed at the end of this year. Born and raised in this meadow. Now live in Hicksville on the Hicksville School Board. Hi, Fede Castillo. I am the project coordinator for Family Leadership Network.
Thank you.
And if we're talking about where we're from, I'm from Brentwood.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to have to be using the mic, so I'll just stand and just walk everybody through it. But again, the process of visioning something, getting all the community stakeholders, all the municipalities on board is a challenge. In Hicksville, I've said it a million times before, they've talked about revitalizing the downtown area since 1969. I was born in '68. Nearly 50 years later, there have been numerous plans throughout the course of the years. When I came on board 9 years ago, I was told it'll never happen. You'll never get all the civics, the municipalities, never ever on the same plate. Moving forward, we've got the state, it just gave us $10 million to revitalize our downtown area. We've got the town of Oyster Bay, who is helping us tremendously push things, get things forward, getting everything set up as far as outreach to the community. We've got Vision Long Island, who's been helping us out. We've got our Downtown Revitalization Committee, the Chamber, and all the other community organizations to help us out. So we're slowly getting there. So I'm going to just start with some of our panel members just to talk about what revitalization means to them and how they think it would get started, or if they're currently working on something, how did they get it started?
I'll pass in a moment, but because I don't directly work with revitalization, but as a parent and as a foundation staff person and as a school board member, these are all very key parts of revitalization of any community, and not just Hicksville, but Hicksville in relation to Nassau County and in relation to Long Island, in relation to New York State. So I think we need to constantly make sure we're considering all those connections and resources.
So just a little bit about the LGBT Network. We are a home and a voice for the LGBT community on Long Island and in Queens. We operate 4 community centers across the island and in Queens. And we help people to be themselves, stay healthy, and change the world. We are in over 110 of the school districts on Long Island, and our advocacy and direct services reach over 100,000 people annually. So something we're working on right now, we've been located in downtown Bayshore for our 24-year history. And we started right on Main Street in a walkout property, and we eventually ended up buying our own property in 2005, which is our largest freestanding community center, which we are currently about to redevelop. So I'm going to pull out a nice little board here.
It's got pictures.
So this is what So we are partnering, it's a public-private partnership with the DNF Development Group. And it is going to be 75 units of affordable, LGBT-friendly and affirming senior housing with an 8,000 square foot community center on the ground floor. This project checks a number of boxes as far as downtown revitalization. There's currently 4 blighted parcels, plus the community center we currently operate to the north of those. And this project takes an assemblage of all of those parcels, knocks down the blighted buildings, and connects all the way down to the street facing the backside of Main Street. So this is now you've got 75 units of housing for folks that are going to be walking the downtown. They're going to be shopping in the shops downtown. They're going to be shopping, eating in the restaurants downtown. And all the visitors that come to the community center, which is thousands annually, are also, they're coming right into downtown Bayshore, and they'll be patronizing those facilities as well. So that's our project. Thanks.
Question about the project?
Sure.
Is the project just a red brick building, or is it the other buildings on the side?
It's the whole structure is one building.
All right, I'm from Baldwin, and we don't have any pictures to show you. That's because we're still trying to get this development done. Part of our problem in Baldwin is we're a hamlet in the town of Hempstead, and we're an interesting place because we have 2 senators, 2 legislators in Nassau County, and then we have 2 councilmen. So we're kind of split up a little bit. Not only that, but somewhere back in 1990, the U.S. Census decided to make us 2 census designated places. So we're Baldwin and Baldwin Harbor. We all consider ourselves Baldwin, even though, you know, there was traditionally the clam diggers to the south and the stump jumpers to the north, which were the farmers. Our big thing has been a project that has been going on for over 20 years. And what it is that originally Nassau County decided that they were going to move the first precinct. I don't know if anybody remembers all the stuff that went around first precinct. Move it over to originally Grand Avenue and Merrick Road. Then they talked about up north. Finally, they were going to close it down. And then Sandy actually was good to us because they found they couldn't get to the 7th precinct, and they decided to keep the first precinct and finally built it. So we got lucky on that one. But unfortunately, we're not too lucky with this project that we've had for Grand Avenue and Merrick Road. So Nassau County backed out of the project. Town of Hempstead said, we're not going to let it go. We're going to help you out. So when first RFP was issued in 2007, we are now RFP number 5. Okay, and it is a return to some developers who were interested in before, which was Vassar Kaufman and Engel Berman. We have high hopes, but they're facing the same problems they've always faced. In the blighted area, there's 13 properties to acquire. It's a lot to go on. And the part of the problem is that people hear, oh, there's going to be a development. I can cash out. And so they're having some problems with that. We as a community started in 2011, a young man who's not here, put up a Facebook page, Baldwin Needs Revitalization, and that's really how we started moving along. People liked the Facebook page, had a meeting, thought 50 people might show up, 200 people showed up. Somebody suggested revitalizing an organization that had been around called the Baldwin Civic Association. Did that, and that's how we've been moving up. We had, I think the 3rd developer was Breslin, came in. We've never had a vision plan actually done for the community. Town of Hempstead never did it, Nassau County never did it, but people in the community knew they wanted a vibrant downtown. They talked about the transit-oriented development, which is something that we're very much on board with. Breslin came in, and his proposal was to put a CVS in and a bank. And we went, no. So we took to the street. We got, 40 people out in the middle of a rainy day, out there protesting. We kept going back. Mr. Breslin decided the project wasn't really worth it. He backed out, and now we're 2 developers later. This is our key project that we have been working on and trying to get done. We hope that with the newly elected officials and the past elected officials who have all said we want to get this project done, we're hopeful it will get done. Our main way of getting information out, because I think that was part of what we were supposed to be talking about here, is we do a lot through social media. We started with social media with that Facebook page. We continue with the Facebook page. We have a website. We do email. We're trying to build on that. We're talking about doing Instagram. It's the communication back and forth that is really what we need to keep doing and grabbing in more people, including our chamber, our school system, our Rotary Club. We're trying to do all of that because that's the way we figured this is going to happen.
Good afternoon, I'm Jim McGoldrick. I would like to thank Eric for putting this thing together today. I'm from Huntington Station, and many of you are aware of Huntington Station's been going on for decades, literally decades. And one of the things to get these projects going is you have to have community involvement. Yeah, and the builders and everybody has to be able to come to a table, sit down and hash this out. Another big problem is that this Renaissance group faced is that everything that gets done in Huntington takes 3-4 years to get it going. Now you can't sit back and expect somebody to come in from Renaissance and bid on a project and 4 years later build it. Another thing is, I don't know how we have this, but we do have opposition to it. The biggest problem in the station is we don't have sewers. You have to do the sewers. The sewers is not only for the environment, but it's also to get the economy running. There's about a 1.5 mile stretch that runs from the trestle to Route 110 and will be taken to the Southwest Sewer District. This has been a stumbling block for years. Hopefully, we're going to get there. Congratulations to the $10 million grant that Hicksville got, because we were hoping for it, to be honest with you. All right? Joan Sergel we were in on that. And another thing is, people are very concerned about, you have to get the police department involved, you have to have your politicians involved, because your infrastructure. You know, we have our issues in Huntington, I don't want to get into them, but in order to make this community work, you got to make people feel safe. Yeah, we have thank God we have great schools. I mean, we have that going for us. And when the community gets involved, we've had some projects go with more community-minded people. Now, I'm not talking civic, I'm talking civic groups. I'm just talking the average schmo, the business owner comes in and just throws in his 2 cents. That's what's going to make it work. If the politicians and the builders all sit in a room, the back door, it automatically becomes very suspicious with the public at hand. So we need to be all together, and everybody's got to watch what's going on and help each other. We just had a new changeover with our politicians in Huntington. The man deserves a chance. And you know, this is going to be a big test for him. And you know, if we all sit back and as a community, and the whole island has to come together and figure out what these issues are going to be and do it together. Because it seems from what I gather here today, talking to many different individuals, is that a lot of the communities are doing the same thing and fighting the same battles that have already been fought somewhere, where you can sit down and get ideas from each other. This didn't work for us, try this method. And that's what we have to do. And you have to educate the people, let them know what good is going to come out of this for the community, and what's going to go back into the community from it. The way things are now, I mean, we're not going to keep our kids. I have 4 adult children. I have one in Florida, one's ready to split, I think. And it's not right to them. And then again, everybody's talking about the millennials. Nobody's talking about the elderly. What about our elderly people? I mean, my mother's, God bless her, she's financially secure, but I know elderly people that they can barely eat, you know, because they retired 25 years ago, and they have a $600 a month Social Security check and a $300 a month pension. Thank God their kids are good and the neighbors are good, everybody chips in and help them. This also has to be addressed. And if you're not going to address the elderly and the children, I'm sorry, it's not worth doing this, because it's very important for them. Our kids, you know, our kids have to be protected from gangs and drugs. And when you have run-down neighborhoods, the broken window effect. I know a lot of politicians don't agree with me, but that broken window effect has a lot to do on what goes on in a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, again, I'm Linda from Kings Park. And if you haven't been there, Kings Park is a wonderful, wonderful place to live and an even better place to visit. So we hope to see you all there. Like many small communities, maybe larger ones, sewers is always the issue, right? You want to advance your downtown. Many years ago, I was at lunch with an editorial writer for Newsday. I will not tell you who he is. And he was looking at me and he goes, "Yeah, you're with the Civic Association in Kings Park." I said, "Yeah, very proud of my town. We have these great parks." He goes, "You know, when you're driving through Kings Park, you're going through Northport, you know, you're heading up to Smithtown to Pawtucket. It's like all of a sudden when you hit the Kings Park border, it's like Wizard of Oz when everything goes black and white." And I went, "No." And then I started looking, and maybe, right? It needs a little TLC. So what do we think is bringing our downtown to life, okay? We want a vibrant downtown. Kings Park, I think, is lucky. We have a lot of smaller homes. We do keep a lot of our elderly in the community. And a lot of our kids are there. I was a relieving teacher for a million years. I still see the same kids, right? I was, PTA mom. but we wanted to make our downtown a walkable, thriving community where we could go at night. You know, we have some really good restaurants, more restaurants, something for everyone to do. So, how to go about doing that? Well, the big thing is, right, everyone wants sewers. We spoke to all the business owners, and the big problem is they said they need sewers. We can't have any more wet uses. So the Chamber, Kings Park Chamber of Commerce and the Civic Association got together. We met with County Executive Ballone, and it was an interesting meeting. Everyone got along except one person kept yelling, "Where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from?" And that was me. So he talked about, he kept saying to me, "No, no, 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 no. The money's the easy part." And I'm going, "What is he, kidding?" Right? He goes, "You need to get everyone on board." And I know everyone has said it, but I'm going to tell you it's the truth. If you don't have your business people on board and your community members on board, nothing is going to get done. Everyone will think, well, you know, the business people just want this because they want money in their pocket. That's all this is about, you know? And it's not true. You know, in Kings Park, many of our chamber members that own the businesses live in Kings Park, and they care about our town. Tony Tanzi's the president of the chamber. He cares about our town. He's raising his family there. So we decided, all right, we're going to get together. We're going to get a plan. The town of Smithtown wasn't really doing something to help us with respect to a plan. So we said, well, we'll hire Vision Long Island and we'll do our own plan. And it's going to be a community-based plan. And I'll be honest, it was the best thing we did. Yeah. We did not even invite a politician to any one of our meetings. We purposely said, you cannot come. So we had a few smaller meetings, and we got the leaders of every group in town. And I mean every group. Soccer club, the fire department, homemakers clubs. You had a group, you were at our meeting. And we started it that way. And then they took the information and they disseminated it to the people in their group. So we hired Eric, and we did about 3 large community meetings, and they were packed. And we put out papers and maps, and we wanted everyone's idea, and we stayed there until the last question was answered. And Eric, you know, and Vision, they did a great plan for us. I hope I didn't forget anything. And we did set up a website and a Facebook page and all that, but it really was the face-to-face at the meetings that really helped. You know, Facebook can only go so far. So we got our plan together, we went to the town, and we wanted to present it to the town, but the money thing is still, you know, in the back of our heads. And we met with County Exec Ballone, and he invited me and a couple of us to a State of the State. And at that meeting, and Governor Cuomo was there, and there's a slideshow going off, and all of a sudden, we see Kings Park's name flash, $20 million for sewers. We only needed $18 million for sewers. So,
We'll take the other 2.
I think we'll use the next one. Yeah, we need, just in case there's a problem. On top of it, we managed to get $200,000 grant, which helped us do a traffic study and things like that. And we're really in a good position right now. We had a retail study just done, which was really very helpful for the process. And you know, we're moving along, and the only reason we're moving along is because we're getting along. There was compromise, but I'm telling you, it's worth the effort. You have to do it. You have to do it where you include everyone. Because if you don't, everyone's suspicious. Nothing will get done. And I believe County Executive Ballone, you know, you get everyone on board. That really is the hard part. You'll find the money somewhere.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Mancini. I'm from the town of Smithtown, which Kings Park is also part of.
Hamlet thereof.
The hamlet thereof, or we're the hamlet of Kings Park. We have to do that.
We're the Hamlet.
If you look at the board, and I actually have handouts that are on the table. Let me tell you a quick story about last year, exactly at this time last year. A developer came into the town of Smithtown at the behest of the school board, who was selling their 13.5-acre property, and they're actually here today, Southern Land, and they might be in the room. They presented a proposal to the school board to build 250 apartments on the lot that you see on the lower left-hand corner with the soccer fields there. Those soccer fields exist today. What occurred... Yeah. What occurred during that process was pretty much a disaster for Smithtown, a quick disaster. One in which the public that lived around there, if not all over Smithtown, came out vehemently against any proposal to redevelop this property. The school board pushed ahead. They were actually in contract, and I believe they actually technically sold the building and sold the land. But it was quickly pulled back when it was clear that the town of Smithtown wasn't going to rezone the property and that the public was very much against it, and it was an election year, let's face it, right? So out of the ashes, where did we go from there? I was actually, in full disclosure, an architect in Smithtown, and Southern Land came to me and asked me if I would actually be interested in representing that project. During the meeting with the public, I was actually sitting next to Southern Land when very many of the people who are in this room today, who were residents that lived around there, were at that meeting on the other side. After Southern Land pulled out, and we were sitting there with basically a 13-acre land that the school district wasn't going to do anything with. The town of Smithtown was getting into their election zone. We decided to hold a meeting, and I went and met with the civic associations around this area, and I sat with them and said, okay, here we go. What are we going to do next? And right at the same time that $20 million went to Kings Park, $20 million came to Main Street, Smithtown for new sewers. So suddenly, we were in a situation that instead of the developer putting an on-site septic system on this site, and there's another one that's under redevelopment to the right of that, an on-site septic on that site, we have the potential of having one central sewer district for all of Main Street and possibly Lake Avenue and St. James and a couple of other places. So $20 million wouldn't cover it, but it's a start, and we know that's the direction we're going in. So get everybody in one room. We had a meeting at the Historical Society has a barn that's beautiful to have a meeting in. We brought everybody in, and we said, okay, this is up for sale. The school district doesn't want it. What are we going to do next? Let's get together as a community. Let's figure out what we do. I asked for volunteers, and I got 12 to 15 people to begin with. Some others came in. Some others went back. For the next 8 months, we sat every Thursday. Every other Thursday, Hal? I think it was every other Thursday. Over and over again, going over these things. And some of the people came in, I don't want any apartments at all on Main Street. All right? Others came in and said, I'm a developer, I want to see all of that developed, and I think that would be great. And what's a useless school? Knock it down. All right? So everybody, there was different opinions, but by the time we got through this and we started working out the details, suddenly the developers understood that their kids play soccer at that field every Saturday, right? And that these fields need it, and it's a public green space that shouldn't go away, right? So those things started to come out, and then other people understood that if you don't put the apartments and you don't start to redevelop, well, the businesses downtown that you're complaining about that are coming apart, and they're not doing anything with the facades of the buildings, well, they're not going to get redone because they're not going to generate any business to make it done. There's not going to be revitalization unless you start with an anchor somewhere. So we put together this plan that you see here after 8 months, which we addressed the issues of keeping the soccer fields. The New York Avenue School, which is a high school, is the original high school of Smithtown from 1925. And if you go to other towns, you'll see Oyster Bay, the old high school, it's a town hall. You go to Southampton, it's a town hall. Town of Islip, the old high school, it's a town hall. Repurposing a building that is not on the tax rolls and using it for a government so that it's not on the tax rolls still makes total sense. Town of Smithtown right now has 7 outbuildings, and I know Russ Barnett's here from the Department of Waterways. He will tell you he's in one of those buildings, which I'm proposing to knock down there. Just so you know. But the idea is that you take all these departments and you put them into one building and keep the town hall because it is named after Pat Vecchio, who was supervisor for 40 years and kept this town probably the most solvent town in all of the United States of America. There's no debt. Right? So you start looking at that. Smithtown is uniquely suited to have development like this and proceed forward and then get together. The only thing that we were missing is what Kings Park started, which is getting the community in one room, getting everybody together, and get everybody to understand. Now, this plan that you see here, and if you have time, read through the comments on the side, and it explains all the design aspects, which I won't get into and bore the hell out of everybody, but it's a community-oriented plan that plans for the elderly housing, or people who outgrow their houses, their kids move away, they decide to shrink down. It provides transit-oriented because uniquely Smithtown's, every one of its main streets has a train station on its main street. St. James, Kings Park, Main Street, Smithtown, all have the public train station on their main street within walking distance. It's a great place to live. It's not been developed properly. We only have one express train in the morning, right? Imagine if we actually developed this correctly and we had 2 or 3 express trains. You'll see in the upper part of this plan, buildings, those are where the old town buildings that we want to knock down, put into the New York Avenue School, and build transit-oriented housing right on the train station, connected to the walkway bridge that connects the north and south track. Smart idea.
Quick question.
Mhm.
It also turns it into a walkable community, which is important.
Correct, and that's big. One of the biggest problems we had with last year's plan with put 250 apartments on one lot, put an on-site septic system is, okay, great. So now you just created 250 apartments, and we still have the Chop House, Napper Tandy's downtown, and a few other restaurants like Patera's, all with the same seating. But they're not allowed to expand because Article 6 of Suffolk County says, well, you can't increase the seats of your restaurant because you only are on a half acre and there's no public sewer. So this plan only works with the public sewer. And this is what has to be done. And you cannot go and just look through a tunnel at one lot and say, we're just going to develop that. It affects every single thing in this town. It affects the traffic, the flow patterns. You can see that we put a road, that white line that goes underneath those apartments in the middle there, a new outflow road to take the excess traffic on Main Street off so that you have a place for people to go. And it has to be a comprehensive plan. Smithtown's been working on their master plan for quite a while, we know. We as a community, Smithtown United, the Chamber of Commerce, we came together and we put out our own plan, something to follow, and we're asking the town to basically now adopt this. And this is the direction we want to go as a community. We put this in the paper, we put it on Facebook. Yeah, I get those comments, a couple of them. A few of them came through, what kind of housing is it, that kind of stuff. We always get those things, the people who don't want to build anything, and I understand that. But overwhelmingly, 15,000 people visited the Facebook page, and the ones that commented, overwhelmingly positive. And positive, and these are the same people a year ago were saying, don't put anything around here. But they see these things, now they're all complaining about my traffic circle in the middle, which I get. I'm a big roundabout guy. But we got to put something for them to complain about, and that's fine. All right? But the key to this whole story that I'm telling you today, and I hope I'm not boring you too much, is that if you don't start with every single community person and bring them up, we have still a long way to go with this and meeting with people and getting more together. You have to get everybody involved. And you know, the poor developer came into town, they had no idea what they were in for, honestly. I mean, there was no master plan, there was no rezoning concepts, there was nothing in place for them to get ready to actually develop these properties. And this is only one little area. We have a river corridor in Smithtown that nobody even knows we have a river. This is,
I just want to chime in.
oh, I got the Kings Park.
I'm going to push them aside. Just you talked about the river corridor, and the only thing I do want to say about when we talk about revitalizing downtown, it's also, and we talk about sewers, we go straight to sewers, right? Because everyone knows you're not doing anything without sewers. But sewers, it's twofold. It's not just economic development. It really is environmental. I sat through a few of the workshops this morning, you know, and the sewers, we need sewers. And here in the town of Smithtown, I think you'll agree, we care about the Nissaquag River. We're very protective of the Nissaquag River. And this will go not all the way, but a short way in helping us protect the Nissaquag River, which in turn protects everyone on Long Island. Sorry, I have to say that.
I just want to get some chance to open up some questions.
Open up for questions.
Sure, of course. Sure.
I just wanted to add, you talked about Smithtown having a master plan, coming in and having a master plan. Baldwin never really got a master plan. And what we ended up doing is we kind of drove it from the grassroots. The Baldwin Civic Association learned about a grant that was available from HUD for the Long Island Railroad infill redevelopment. We went, we talked, we found out there was a master plan, there was a plan thought about but never signed, and we never got it. We actually got the grant. From the grant, we decided we wanted to try and do a traffic study, knowing that if you improve traffic, it improves your economic development. So we got the traffic study. Nassau County did it. Nassau County, this is, and what my point is going to be is that this snowballs. Nassau County went and got the preliminary money to do, they got the money to do the grant. Then they did the next step. And Nassau County kept applying for the next step. And now we're at the point where they're actually starting to engineer this redevelopment of our major artery, Grand Avenue. From that, Nassau County, knowing that the community was willing and wanted redevelopment, then turned and found that there was Sandy money available. And they went and they found that they could go for a grant for a downtown commercial corridor resiliency study. So they initiated that, and we were able to get that. So sometimes this grassroots coming from the bottom, working for one grant, getting it started, starts to snowball and starts to move. And hopefully, you know, the community has shown its interest in really moving forward and doing this. We have actually even at one point had somebody was coming in, they wanted to put a laundromat. We didn't need a 9th laundromat in Baldwin. We're only 4 square miles.
Right.
A lot of home ownership. We have buildings, but they have their own things. So when I went in there and I went to fight it, I actually got very lucky, and the lawyer looked to me and said, well, what do you want? And we said transit-oriented, we want to sit and talk. We sat down, we talked transit-oriented development. This gentleman was open to it. He said, I need so many apartments. We said, yeah, we think we can do that. We went back and forth, and now he's going to start going for the variances for the transit-oriented development, where he wanted to put a strip mall and a laundromat.
Wow. It all just makes sense, but I just wanted to open up, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, I just want to correct something, Karen. Karen, 2 years ago in Smithtown, we had a master plan that was 57 years old. It's now 59 years old, and we still haven't had it approved. So what I'd like to say is, first of all, to thank both Linda and Mark, who put a plan together. And I think my point is, that's where it starts. We're going to wait for the government or for a town or for elected officials to sit down and say, okay, here's your plan. It's not going to happen. So we need it, and we need it perhaps the way they've done it in Smithtown. I don't know if any other of the folks at the dais here are at that point, but it starts in the community. So forget, the elected officials will come on when they have no choice but to come on. Okay, the community is the folks that are going to run this through and get things done.
And just from experience in Hicksville, again, they said you will never get 6 civic associations, a community council, the fire, you'll never get anybody on board. It took 7 years. What was the best was when the chamber, the community council, and Vision Long Island went to the town of Oyster Bay board, and we actually had residents tell the board, we want this. And these were people that at the beginning said there's no way we want it. But they stood up and they said, we got educated. Now we understand. This is for us now, but it's also looking to the future. People don't like change. It's natural, but you have to understand. Please.
So my question is actually about Hicksville. But it crosses all of it. So we talked about today how there's a need to address the older population. But how do you encourage millennial participation when you're doing these grassroots efforts and you're doing something like a Hicksville downtown revitalization?
You got to go twofold. We were a little bit lucky. I have 3 schools up the road from Hicksville, and I'm actually a trustee of one of them. So I talked to the young people. And I got a little aggravated. We were doing our street fairs. We were also canvassing people about revitalization. And it was a nice young lady, and she was helping out a lot. And then she disappeared. 2 years later, we're at the street fair again, and I see her. I said, what happened? She goes, I couldn't afford to live here anymore. I moved to Maryland. I won't be visiting my parents. So you have to talk to the parents to talk to those kids, because the parents have one thing in their mind. Yeah, when you have the conversation, like, well, if you don't want apartments, where are your kids going to live? Oh, wait a second, this does affect me. And even when you're talking to the college kids, you know, things are changing. They're looking at our world, our towns differently. They don't want to buy the $450,000 house. They don't want the car and the payments and everything. They want to live, work, play in an area. They want to walk, they want to ride their bike, they want to hop on a train going to the city, do what they want to do, but they want different things. So you have to start looking at some of the studios, talk to the young people, try to get them involved. Try. They're not going to overwhelmingly come in, because right now they're still young, they're focusing on their schooling, whatever the case may be. But as they start getting a little bit older, you're going to start to see more and more participation as your grassroots efforts grow. Did I answer your question? Any other questions? Yes.
I have one about the sewer systems.
Okay.
This is for Linda and Mark. It's great the governor awarded you $20 million for each project, and congratulations. But that's not the entire cost. How are you raising additional funds for that?
Well, we're pretty covered. We don't need additional funds for us.
Oh, the $20 million will come?
We have a plant by us.
And if she does have $2 million left over, we're going to take it.
No.
I got first dibs on that. Oh, you guys heard me.
Wait, over my dead body.
Besides that, I mean, there's plenty of routes, and we think the money will come. And yeah, this is not an option anymore. You see the water situation. You see every single one of our restaurants and residents around that area are all going into the ground untreated, and that's a fact. And this is going to change whether you like it or not.
Part of the solution.
And it's got to keep moving.
It's got to keep moving. There was another question in the back? Yes.
I'm from Baldwin, so I know what we're doing to try to involve the people who live there. But what are some of you other people doing, either social media or events or whatever it is, to get the people to come to get educated?
I'll start off on that one. We had several events. It started off with a small committee, and they would talk to their friends. Yeah, it'll never happen, I'm not going to pay attention. I remember telling my committee years ago, when this starts happening, they're going to come out of the woodwork. So we went from the first meeting of 60 people, the second one of 150 people, the third one of 250 people, and the last one was like almost 600 people. Utilize the social media, but you have to watch what's going on. Things get skewed. People come with weird ideas. I heard this is going to happen, they're going to do this, and we don't want this. Take it all in, and your response should be, if you want to find out more, come to the meeting. I can't help you if you don't come down and participate. You can't get educated if you don't come down and listen to what's going on. One of the best, and I'll turn it over to one of the panelists, one of our last meetings, somebody said, well, what about the school district? I said, we got that covered. She goes, how? Well, the gentleman over there, he's the school board president, and he's been involved since day one, before he was even the school board president. We got it covered, they didn't know it, so we made that match. Did anybody else want to jump in?
I think it's because a lot of people always look at social media and, putting out the large informational aspects, doing convenings and things. It also starts the door knocking, the door to door, the going to the nonprofits, convening the nonprofits, because they're going to impact, whether it's senior program, youth programs, all kinds of programs, to coordinate them and find the resources to maybe have ongoing meetings like was talked about. But sometimes they need to gather, and you need to gather with them initially to kind of hear what is some of the resistance from their constituencies, because they represent them, they work with them. The businesses don't. A lot of times schools will indirectly work with them. Teachers are usually coming from outside in and don't know. So you really got to keep going deep and broad and looking at every avenue possible and trying to pull together the resources. And social media is is sometimes, I like it for one aspect, but sometimes it gets narrowed down as the way to do it. And it really is the meeting the people in the supermarket. It's going to your business owner and saying, just even giving them 3 points to talk about when their customers come in. Because we talk, you start talking, I start having someone do my hair, and then we start talking about, oh, did you learn about that thing over there? What do you think? If the beautician or the minister or religious leaders have points to say, what's good about it or where to go to learn more about it, that's how you create that interconnected community. And you have to be willing and open to listening to the negatives, even if it comes from that crazy person, because I am so tired of those crazy people being dismissed, because sometimes those are the people who have kept the community going, who have been the fighters for the disenfranchised that nobody else doesn't want to remember or look at. So you have to listen to them and listen to them and find out why they're saying what they're saying and how does it matter and how do we fix that or address it in this larger visioning and community development.
Sure.
We formed a group in Huntington. It's called Community Conversation. And what we do is we have a meeting, same Wednesday, third Wednesday of every month. And at that meeting, we invite the police department comes out at every meeting. We have the school superintendents coming to the meeting. We invite elected officials, plus the community. And at this meeting, all right, it's not going to be 50, 60 people. It's maybe about 40. But out of the 40 people, it probably gets out to about 800 because the sewers were a big issue and many other things in the town. And this seems to kind of smooth it out because you always have the police department there because when you're developing, the first thing people say, their infrastructure. So the police there to talk, to put them at ease. Then we have the elected officials talking, then we have some of the builders talking. So I mean, if you reach out to the players, you need the key players there. We can't speak for the police department, we can't speak for our elected officials. You need them there to answer the community questions. And that's gonna help you a lot because we've gotten, we have not as many conflicts now. When subjects are coming up in the beginning 2-3 years ago, holy cow, it was like it was gonna turn into a melee. But now people are actually starting to think about this and realizing from the different things, Hicksville getting their money and this, and now they're starting to realize. So you have to get everybody involved. It's not just a select civic group. It's not just a politician. It's everybody. We even had firemen come. We even have the gentleman that runs the library. He comes to the meetings. So we've actually reached out to every possible official we can, and it's working out good because you know what? People end up meeting for coffee afterwards, and it's working out good. You got to get everybody involved. Yeah. Key players, not the neighbor, not this, but you need people, elected officials, that can answer the questions for them. Thank you.
And I think his last statement was very key. We were on Facebook, and I'm at the point where I started getting aggravated. I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's wrong. So I reached out to my contact in the town, who happened to be sitting in the back, I won't mention his name, and he got on there and he started giving the people the real information that they needed. Your municipalities want to pay attention. Yes, they're elected officials, but they're in that area. They want to try to do what's right. But again, when you have so many people, so many pieces, you need to get that contingency part, everybody together on the same page. You're still going to have your stragglers, but that's okay. You need to get people educated. We got to the point where people wanted to come in and build something in Hicksville, buy property and build something. The town of Oyster Bay said, you got to go talk to the chamber. When they went to the IDA for tax credits, the IDA said, you have to go talk to the chamber. You have to go talk to those guys so that you understand what they want to do. It's still their community. It's still their community. And that's why there's all these laws put in place. That's why these projects take so long, because in the past, developers have come in and done whatever they wanted to do, and it was a detrimental effect on the community. So again, there's a lot of moving pieces. Hi.
Hi, can I? Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Asher. I am with the Family Leadership Network at Choice for All. So Jim actually was a participant in a leadership program that I took part in, but he was a leader long before that. But Jim, I thought after Linda spoke, I thought you were going to say you were that crazy person at the meeting, because Jim is up here because Jim was that active community leader, doggedly going to the meetings and talking and getting his community active and bringing people in. And he was really, someone that stood out in the town of Huntington to get the message out there. And it's kind of what Linda was saying, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate. I keep hearing educate the community, but you need to be educated by the community. And it's a lot about your language. Obviously, when you're professionals in development and these different things that you're doing, you want to teach that to people so they know why it's good for them. But you really have to start listening to what the people want. And not just the people that are in your neighborhood, but in the Black and brown communities in your town and in all the communities that haven't been outreached to. Because they are taxpayers, they are part of that community as well. And I don't hear that being said, so I just challenge everyone to really think about that next time you hear the words, I'm going to educate someone out of your mouth, and think about how you can then be educated by them and find that happy medium where the community will really come together, because then you'll really have buy-in.
Very well said. I think one of the advantages we had in Hicksville was I don't live in Hicksville. I live all the way out east. And people are like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, listen, I'm here to steer the ship. I need to hear what you want in your neighborhood. All of you. If you don't want this shit, well, then let's start having that conversation. That's how those people start getting educated. When you talk to vision, well, you can do this, but you can't do this. And this is how you go and start to strategize, and then let it spread from there. It's a process. It's a definite process. Are there any other questions? Nobody? Does anybody from our panel have anything they would like to add? Because I could talk all day, but I'm getting a little tired.
I know everybody said you have to be careful with social media, and I know we started with social media, and I try to be very, very careful. We try to accent the positive with what we post. But I do something else, and a lot of people that I work with also do it, and that is we joined every group that has any bearing on Baldwin. So all these different groups, and you go into the group, and it comes up on the feed, and you're hearing what the people are saying. And that you can take that, and you can answer it, or you can, sometimes I don't even answer it. Sometimes I just take it and I pass it along, or I discuss it with people and see what's going on, so that we get a temperature of what people are thinking in the community. And they have no problem putting it out there on Facebook. And I try to, putting back onto Facebook, I try to promote events in the community. I try to link to articles, etc. So it's not coming from us, but it's coming from other people, other places, other sources. But that can be a good tool for learning what the concerns are within the community. And, besides, and many times if you have a meeting, you only get the people who didn't have something else that night, wasn't tired, they got home from work in time. So this is a way you can get that communication and understanding of what's happening.
Good stuff, yes?
When building multifamily, how do we get past the Section 8 argument?
You mean an affordable housing thing?
No, Section 8. It's hard.
Low income.
Or low income.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we're not building, we're building work in our terminology, right? We call that workforce housing because it's not really that affordable, particularly here on Island. We talk about an 80% AMI program, or that could be an 100%. So how do we get past, when I go to these communities, I oftentimes get that I'm only building the slumlord, and I'm going to only build stuff for people who are barely above the poverty line, if not even above.
Right.
We're really discussing inclusionary housing, or really places for people.
There's always a little fear of that in communities. And, well, some more than others, yeah, a little. Not every community jumps up and down about that. When we had our meetings, that was something that, and I'm not pushing Vision, but we hired Vision and they know what they're doing. You have to hire an organization that knows what questions to expect and understands what the people out there want to hear. They want to hear the truth, right? No fake news. They want the facts. So what Vision did, they put up the facts. They said, these are the amount of housing we were looking at, where we're looking at it, by the railroad station. What does affordable mean? What is the percentage? And when you put up the numbers, people go, wow, that could be me. You know what I mean? Like when you put up the facts, you can't let the rumors get in front of you. You just have to put up that slide and keep it up if that's going to be the sticking point in your community. And say, you know, look, you're going to get this apartment, it's going to be, I don't know, you know, $5,000 a month or something like that. People go, well, that's affordable. A lot of people think that when you say affordable, it's really affordable, and then most people go, that's not even affordable.
That's why they say, what do you say today, attainable?
Obtainable is yeah, absolutely a better word. So once you just tell people the truth, what you expect, it really does bring everyone down to a level reality playing field. So just all I'm saying is, you know, get those slides up, get the truth out there, work with people that have done this before and know what they're doing. Because if you stand up there and try to do it yourself, you'll get buried.
There's a young lady back there. So.
Actually, if I could.
That's just, please.
And speaking to the affordable component, you know, our project is 100% affordable. It is, I believe, 60 to 90% of AMI, and we did get pushback when we first proposed this project. You know, they said, well, you know, we're used to doing 10 or 20%, but 100%, that's, you know, we don't necessarily want that in our downtown. They didn't believe that these people would be going out spending money in the community. And it took telling the stories of the potential residents, really. You have to put a face to the folks that you're talking about. These aren't just people who are, you know, below the poverty line or something. You know, it's not just poor folks, they're seniors. They're people who, in our case, historically have faced discrimination. They don't have family support systems because they didn't have children. And these people need a place to live too. You know, they're our mothers, they're our fathers. These people are retired and they don't necessarily have the income they once had. So where are they going to live? Where can they afford to live? You know, actually contextualizing, you know, these are real people we're talking about. They're not just some, you know, some income level on a page. They're real people who have real lives and real stories, and you know them. They're people just like you, especially if you contextualize what those actual values mean as far as income. You know, you contextualize a person earning $50,000 a year who's 55 years old. That's not some, you know, scumbag who can't afford to pay their way. That's a person who's a responsible adult, and, you know, they can make their way on their own. So.
And just to add to that, that's why like an organization like the LGBT Network and the work that Betty does is very important to connect. So it might not be you doing that, but making those connections, because they're the ones who could bring that education, bring that awareness to kind of put the face to the reality of who is our community.
Beautiful. Somebody in the back had a question?
I just wanted to elaborate on Karen and Linda's to their points. I mean, I work closely with Karen and Baldwin, and a picture goes a long way, you know. And in us making recommendations to the communities, we didn't use wordy PowerPoint presentations. We put up real pictures of examples of, you know, attainable, affordable housing around the island, around the country, or parking garages that are being implemented all around the country. So real examples of things like the things that we would be recommending, so that the community really understood, not just putting up TOD up there and having somebody come and not have any clue what that means, you know. Really, you know, a picture can go so long with these community people in the community. So I think that should be a huge part moving forward. Wordy documents don't do much for the community at all. And really, you know, showing them how successful these projects are, not only here on Long Island, but around the country.
Which is 100% correct. I mean, when it comes to people's neighborhoods, they get very, very passionate. And again, over the years, again, working with Vision Long Island, we took bus rides. We said, okay, we're going to have this day, we're going to go look at other smart growth neighborhoods. We took people from Hicksville to Patchogue. They went over to Riverhead for a couple of small developments that were there. They went into other local areas. They went into farming there. You know, when I'm talking to somebody and they said, well, nobody's going to pay the type of money for an apartment in Hicksville. I said, well, if you look at Farmingdale, I saw a two-bedroom loft apartment. Guess how much they got for it? $3,425 a month. That's a mortgage to me, but again, it's not for me. Who's taking those places? The young professionals in the city, they got priced out of the city. They don't mind taking a train, and they can walk right from where the train stops over to their place and spend their money in between. So again, making that visual is very important. Something else that's also important is when you have these meetings, make sure you have comment cards. People can be anonymous and put their information down there. You're like, how are we going to go through all that? You will. And you'll find out there's only about 10 to 15 things that people are really concerned about. And as you start addressing those and narrowing them down, they're going to come up again. We took care of that. Here's the information. So again, it's that process. Yes.
I do want to add, you can hear me, right? Kings Park did similar. We set up a couple of little road trips, whoever wanted to come. And we went to Farmingdale, and we went to a couple of the downtowns. And then when Vision came in and we were working on the plan, they would put up photos. And it's really kind of cool what they do. They'll put up a photo of, maybe this looks historic, this looks more modern. And you go, 1 to 10, do you like it? Like, what do you feel? And when you put that, and we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people doing it. I think they had clickers or something. It was really kind of fun. And you kind of get a sense of what the people want, and they knew what they wanted because they could see the photo of it. And you could compare photos. Just sitting up there with pie charts and stuff, no good. So we took people on tours, and we showed them lots of photos.
And when you have the people doing the presentation, we've had one where it was boring. It was very wordy, very technical, and you heard the people in the back, boo, this is horrible, boo, it's horrible. They will tell you. It needs to be simple. You do breakout groups. I mean, when we took people to Patchogue, they're like, wow. I'm like, this isn't Suffolk County, and you guys said that you don't want to be like this? They see it, they're like, that's pretty tall. Maybe we don't want it that tall, but again, they see what's going on. I know Patchogue has a problem now with parking. I would rather have their parking problem than we have our parking problem in Hicksville. Because they're like, okay, stop, no more for right now, we're good, let's plan again for the future. When you look at it, now I got educated, if you look in Patchogue, the main road, all the utilities are behind the buildings. The parking lots are behind the buildings. So they were thinking about this for a while. You need to take a look at what you have and utilize those resources. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes?
I wanted to ask Linda about whether there was any retail strategies in your plan. I mean, the TOD is great, and we need more TOD in all the downtowns, but since 2008, the retail and Main Street has really been hurting, and some of that is the downturn in the economy, but some of it's just the changes that are happening with the internet and globalization.
Right.
Where are we going with our Long Island downtowns and retail?
It's funny what you just said, because of the second batch of money we got, the 200,000, we hired a company, and I'm sorry, I can't remember do you know that?
PHP.
There you go. Well, no, you didn't do the retail study that we just went to that. Right, and they did a complete retail study. And what I found interesting about that is, and I really like this, because they brought people in little pods. They brought all the business people in, the ones that are over on Main Street or here or there, and then the civic people. So like no one had to badmouth each other in front of the other person. So you could really be honest. But yes, a study has been done. It's very important for that to be done because, sometimes you just throw money into something, it doesn't make it successful. And we really do have to, what? Absolutely. So yes, if you're going to do it right, it's important to do it that way. And hopefully we're doing it right. And we've moved into that step. And now it's going to be in her hands to take everything that we all did, including we have a study from the RPA that
we're taking Vision Long Island and RPA study as well as the economic study, and we'll be drafting a downtown master plan and doing EEIS.
Right.
Downtown.
So
it's a work in progress.
Correct.
It'll continuously be a work in progress. There will not be any point where you're like, we're done. If you ever get to that point, let me know. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I had a question on Linda. After you do the GEIS, as a town, do you have your elected officials on board to do zone changes?
Go ahead, say it.
Have fun.
After you do the
I believe we do.
You do. You believe? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
because I know that's always.
It's our position that if you have civic people standing here and the entire town behind you, the politicians are very happy to accommodate you.
Will that happen though? Is that needed, or is it the underlying?
No, I have to tell you, no, I don't, Smithtown might be a little bit different from the Kings Park.
We need the voters behind it. There's no
I think Kings Park has the backing of every town board member, and I think we have for a while. Supervisor Vecchio, who I
shouldn't tell you that they're all from Kings Park.
Yeah, right. They're all from Kings Park. No. Don't listen to him. Sit down. Supervisor Vecchio, and I know I've known him for a very long time. I've been doing community work for 18 years. And he says something, and a lot of people get all upset, and probably half the people in this room will get upset, maybe 3/4. He'll say, and the man behind me, and he'll say, slow government is good government is slow government. And I know a lot of people go, well, we don't want to wait for this, we don't want to wait for that, but I'm telling you, if you're a civic, sometimes slower the better. You know, when things start moving really, really fast, it's hard for communities to get the information, to disseminate it to everybody, and figure out where everyone stands on it. So if things are being rammed through really quickly, generally, in my opinion, it's the community that gets the short end of that stick. Now, it shouldn't be at a sloth's pace, I'll say that, but
50 years
as an architect.
50 years is not.
No, but we're not 50 years, man. We're working on 2.5. Us, we just started this. But I think that we have the town board behind us on this. I do. None of them have said they aren't. They're moving along beautifully with it. And, you know, Supervisor Vecchio, he had been on board, and I believe Supervisor-elect Wareheim is also. And, you know, you cross that bridge when you get to it. If things change, you just cross that bridge when you get to it. You want to complain about Smithtown now?
No, not at all. In fact, you know, we are possibly in the midst of change. I mean, obviously, we had a supervisor for 40 years, is it 40? And, you know, even though I applaud his fiscal prowess and how he kept the town absolutely solvent and everything, him and I had many discussions about, you know, revitalization of town. And I don't agree about snail's pace, because the example I'll use is in 2010, we were averaging one person on Main Street being killed a year. And the Chamber of Commerce, we led the fight with the DOT to basically restripe the road on Main Street. And I've had friends who lost their daughter. I had a neighbor who lost her husband. And there's a grandmother that got killed. And every year there was a new person that got killed, and it was all part of our community. And I'm proud to say we pushed the DOT. We got that road restriped. It's now a 3-lane with a, you know, with turning lane in the middle. It used to be a 4-lane, basically drag strip before. Is it a completely safe road? Absolutely not. Did they do everything we asked for, like put the islands down the middle? No. Is there a long way to go? Absolutely. But after, I think we're going on 6 years, no one's been killed in that 1.5 mile stretch. Still, to this day, I sometimes walk into a bank and some old man, I'll hear him complaining that it took him 10 minutes to get across Main Street and traffic is horrible and all that, and but your grandchild's alive. That's all I can tell you. And sometimes you got to make decisions and you got to push forward, and it takes the community. It's not a snail's pace, because these are critical factors. I mean, you can't just develop.
I'm not saying people are dying, let's take 5 years, 6 years to fix that. That's not what I meant.
Yeah, but that's what occurs. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and look, some of that, yes, you push. My big thing when I started civic work was stopping the power plant in Comac and making the Nisqually River State Park a park. That's what my organization did. And I remember Supervisor Vecchio going, oh, your kids will be gone and little kids and nothing will ever happen, and we're on a phase 3 demolition. So I didn't mean to say everything needs to go to snail's pace. What I'm saying is sometimes you really need to look at things. And when you get developers that come in, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it, you're going to get developers that come in, we got to get this done now, we got to get this done yesterday, we got to get this done by tomorrow. Slow up. Let's look at everything. What are the environmental impacts? I certainly wasn't referring to, safety issues. I was referring to development issues, and things that could have a bad effect on your town. And, there is a difference between civics and chamber. And we work together when we can, and we butt heads when we have to also. And that's just the reality. I could sit up here and say it's always a kumbaya moment with our chamber, and it's not, and I'd be lying to you. But it never gets so down in the ground, dirty, that we can't work together on issues that we need to work together on. So, yes, some things need to move quickly, and some things need a breath, so you can see what the effect is on the people that live in the town.
one of the things that I want to add to this is that it's a process, and people forget. They want, we need this now, we want it done now. The process with the infill redevelopment study was, we had to win that grant. They had to do the study. Then they took that study, found what they thought was good for it. They put it out to the community to listen to it. Then they brought it back, and then they had to say, okay, they looked at all the facts, they looked at what the community has. Now they're in the process of engineering. This has taken a couple of years. And people are like, when is this ever going to happen? When you go to build a building, or the development that we have on Grand and Merrick, part of the problem is the acquisition of properties, because there's 13 properties involved. But another part of the problem, which now I think may be being helped, is that you had to go for a variance. What was there, which was actually mixed-use development, somehow was rezoned to just commercial. You couldn't do commercial setback. You couldn't do the transit-oriented development. Now it's starting to go another way. Now all of a sudden, Town of Hempstead, realizing what the people want, what the developer needs to make this project move forward, is talking about putting in a zoning overlay. So it is a process, and it's a process that is learned, and it takes time. And sometimes it's unbearably long. Sometimes you have to understand why it takes time, and sometimes you do need to goose it along because it's too long.
Right now, Hicksville is also going through a rezoning process, and you need to put yourself in everybody else's shoes. When we started, it was us versus the town. And I would talk to people from the town, like, what's the problem? Well, you know, they basically said, we don't want to screw this up. We don't want to mess this up. Let's take our time. We had an administration that first said, absolutely not. And they said, kind of maybe. When we presented it to the town board with the community stakeholders there, the town didn't say no. They didn't say yes, but they did not say no. And they applauded us for taking the time to show them that the community actually wanted to do stuff. But once somebody else said, once one thing starts, it'll start snowballing quickly. We were talking about, you know, our roads and stuff. Like, we got to talk to the DOT. We sat there with the DOT, and the DOT was like, you show us that you guys are serious, that you got everybody on board, that the town actually wants to do stuff, and the county wants to do stuff. We'll do it. When we got the $10 million, we had our committee. Somebody raised their hand and said, let's get the DOT down here. 2 weeks later, guess what? DOT was down there. Again, they're not going to waste your time. We have to put in the effort. We have to show them that we want to see that change and that they want it in their communities. Somebody else had a question? Sure.
Just to Liz's question about changing, getting this town board or whatever entity you need to get involved. That's why when you're doing any of these things, even if it's to build a Boys and Girls Club, no matter what it is in anybody's community, because like I think everybody's been acknowledging, everybody has some ownership, whether we agree to how a community needs to look like, we have ownership of our own community. So you start getting people civically aware, engaged, involved at every level possible, doing parent leadership training, which is an important piece, being more creative with how you do education, right? So there was one group that in a child care center, they started to talk about what does a neighborhood look like? What is environmental issues? What does it look like for housing? And then who helps make those decisions in your community? At a child care center, you could do project-based learning in a school district with the kids to understand, and that starts to get them civically engaged to understand who changes the decisions and how do you get what you want to happen to impact your families, your parent, yourself, your community in a healthy way. And so we have to look at those various opportunities and ways to engage people civically so that it isn't that hard and it isn't just you and it isn't just Bob's friend going to legislative XYZ to try to make this happen. It has to really be a strong commitment from the community behind that person, if not them, at the meetings in any which way they can get there. And that's the other thing, is to have patience, because I had to go check and make sure my son got home okay. And I've been in places where people get really annoyed at 3 o'clock when a parent has to make that phone call, okay? Or if someone has to only be at half a meeting because they have to go take care of their elderly person. We don't have patience with each other. We don't understand that, because some of us have others to do it for us. But not everybody does, but everybody's voice matters in that space. And it's all of our responsibility to make sure it gets heard and is part of the process.
And I'll add this just from my many years of having to go through this, we got to the point where people started coming out of the woodwork, and this one woman cornered me, and she goes, you need to do this, and you need me to make a depository online, and you need to put all the information in, and you need to do all this other stuff. I said, stop. Where were you 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago? Nobody told me. So you didn't see Facebook, you didn't see the newspaper, you didn't see this, you didn't see any of that stuff. Okay, you didn't see it. I hated to say it, I'm not an elected official, I told her. It's not my fault you don't know what's going on in your community. You need to participate, you need to get caught up. We'll help you. Here's my card, call us, I'll grab Eric, we'll come down to your group that you think is being ignored, and we'll catch them up. I never got a phone call. Again, I get it. You have to have that patience. You need to be a little bit aggressive when you need to be. You need to be calm and just listen when you have to be. It's all relationship based. It's like anything else. You have your own family, well, your neighborhood is your entire family. I get the, Hicksville's becoming Little India. We don't like them and they don't. No, we're all here. Neighborhoods change. I said we have a very large Hispanic population. No, we don't. I said, drive down Broadway tonight. You'll see it. It's different. You need to be able to embrace that. I actually had people tell me, we need to slow down the Long Island Railroad. We need to stop them from having freight trains go up and down the tracks. I said, where do you live? 3 blocks away from the train station. Okay, how long did you live there? 40 years. Why'd you buy a house there? Well, it was easy for me to walk over to the train station and go into the city where I had to work. Are you retired? Yes. You need to move. Sorry. How dare you tell me that? I said, I'm not an elected official. I will tell you. Maybe it's time for something to change. It was beneficial for you now. Maybe it's not beneficial for you anymore. Let's have the conversation. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but you need to look at your options. Things change. We looked at property, somebody mentioned before. I looked at a picture of a corner in Hicksville. Way back when, it was mixed use. Retail on the bottom, 3 stories of apartments above. Now it's a parking lot. Guess what? We have to go back to retail on the bottom, apartments on top, because that's what the area demands, that's where things are going. So again, it's got to be a lot of patience. Please just get everybody on board. Are there any other questions? Yes?
Detailed question for Karen about the parcel that you're looking to redevelop at Merrick and Grand Avenue. I had heard that one of the obstacles is that there was an underground stream in the parking lot.
Yes, that does.
How does that affect them? Is this a lesson for us, everyone here, is how do you deal with it?
Okay, so one of the things that happens, Baldwin, people don't realize how much water there really is in Baldwin. South of Merrick Road is completely surrounded by water. Those streams continue up north, and over time they have been culverted, and that is the case. So you have Silver Lake culverts underneath Merrick Road. In that culvert that continues on up, goes up, and really doesn't even come until North Baldwin where it breaks ground again. So yes, one of the problems that they have there is that culvert. Parking lot covers it now. So that's not really a problem because you need to deal with the culvert, you dig up the parking lot, you replace the parking lot. What it has become a problem was when a developer comes in, they need to have a certain amount of, basically a certain amount of space that they can rent out. And they got to make the numbers work. And the hard part is you need the parking as well. That parking lot is underutilized, but the parking lot across the street behind the library actually is very full. Last night we had a board meeting. Everybody had to drive around 2-3 times to find a parking space. Library was going. We were actually developing our restaurants, etc. So many people wanted to take and put the parking underground. Unfortunately, you have the culvert, and it also is a high water table. So that's a factor also that has been in part of this, of how to get the parking situation to deal with it. Now, one of the things that is happening with the transit-oriented development, I mentioned the parcel that we were able to do, which is north of the railroad tracks, that the gentleman is willing to work with us and do the retail on the bottom and the apartments above instead of the laundromat and the strip mall. He needs to do, there's a way of figuring out. Town of Hempstead demands a certain amount of parking, but there are ways that they have figured out that they can not necessarily have to meet that, but still have adequate parking. And it's got to be adequate parking in that area because you have the Long Island Railroad there. And there is no place to park unless you have a parking permit. And even if you have a parking permit, you're still like so far away. People are parking further away to walk to the Long Island Railroad and catch the train than they would if they were to live in this particular area. So it is something that has to be dealt with. It is a problem with the culvert. I'm not sure how Vassar Kaufman and Engel Berman are going to deal with it. They are, at this moment, from my understanding, in the process of trying to acquire the properties and secure funding that they feel is necessary. And then they will come to us with a plan. And one of the things that they have said is that they are willing to work with the community. I've already done a walkthrough with them. I've already talked to them. They know me. They recognize my name. That's a positive thing because they're reaching out to the community and they're willing to give to the community information that we can, as a civic association, disseminate. But yes, we do have a problem. And one of the other things is that part of that was one of the few areas that actually flooded during Sandy. So they're going to have to look at resiliency as well, because one of the buildings definitely flooded, and even though the other buildings didn't flood, water did go up Grand Avenue and flooded that intersection of Grand and Merrick. So that's something that they're going to have to consider too. So there are a few problems within this whole development projected.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, it's getting a little bit late. Again, I thank everybody for coming down. I thank our panel for participating.